The news hit the galactic exchange with the subtlety of an asteroid impact. Earth, a relatively young backwater world, had been classified as a Category 8 death world. The very notion sent shivers of apprehension down Zyla's spines. As an experienced Zarian bureaucrat, he'd handled countless planetary surveys and hazard assessments. Yet this report defied all logic. Lush biosphere, mild climate, abundant resources. It should have been categorized as a haven, not a death trap. He heard a disgusted snort across his comm channel. Deathworld. Pathetic. Jax, a senior Zarian scout, sneered. Those sensor probes must have malfunctioned. I've seen harsher environments on barren moons. Zyla hesitated. Jax, an old friend and seasoned starhopper, rarely voiced an unfounded opinion. Yet the absurdity of the claim nagged at him. Perhaps, he started cautiously, a follow-up mission is warranted. Just a precaution. Precaution. Jax scoffed. Against what? Butterflies. Lush forests. It's clearly a bureaucratic anomaly. I'll go myself. Just need a scout cruiser and a week off. Zyla almost laughed. Typical Jax, always looking for an excuse to break the monotony of regulations. Yet he was inexplicably relieved. Jax's dismissive attitude was soothing. If a seasoned pilot found no cause for alarm, then surely there was none. Granted, Zyla replied, sending the formal authorization through the bureaucratic channels. Consider it a working vacation, then. Report your findings promptly. The scout ship, a sleek Zarian cruiser, sliced through space with deceptive ease. Jax slouched in the pilot's chair, scoffing at the mission's absurdity. A whole week wasted to debunk a clerical error. Still, there was a certain thrill to charting new territories, even if the destination was supposedly a harmless paradise. Engage atmospheric approach, VOR. He commanded the ship's AI, his voice laced with boredom. The onboard sensor arrays whirred to life, scanning the planet below. Initial readings confirmed the classification blunder. Temperate zones, breathable atmosphere, a biosphere teeming with diverse life. Exactly what you'd expect from a Class 3 world, not an untamable hellscape. Prepare for landing in the northern hemisphere, he instructed, selecting a region with signs of primitive settlements. Let's get this farce over with. The descent was smooth, the ship settling in a clearing surrounded by verdant vegetation. Jax suppressed a grin. He could practically smell the promotion this easy mission would bring. He lowered the landing ramp and stepped out, expecting to bask in the warmth of gentle sunlight. Instead, a violent, icy gust slammed into his body, sending him stumbling backwards. Before he could regain his bearings, a deafening roar swallowed the world. It took him a moment to recognize the sound. Rain falling with terrifying intensity. Not gentle rain, mind you, but a relentless onslaught that felt more like an assault. What is the meaning of this? He sputtered, stumbling back towards the safety of the cruiser. Unexpected weather anomaly, Captain, the AI replied, sounding unusually smug. Local atmospheric readings indicate a severe storm system within a 5 kilometers radius. Soaked to the bone, teeth chattering, Jax glared at the torrential downpour. This was not how a harmless planet behaved. This isn't a weather anomaly, he grumbled. This is he flailed for the right word, planetary tantrum. Perhaps the original classification was not entirely inaccurate, the AI suggested, its voice laced with an odd hint of amusement. Humbled and more than a little annoyed, Jax retreated to the ship. Changing into a fresh enviro suit, he set out on foot, stubbornly determined to complete the mission, at least until the storm subsided. Besides, maybe a little primitive contact would be a good laugh. The vegetation surrounding the ship was surprisingly dense. Jax hacked his way through tangled vines and creepers, cursing the humidity that fogged up his visor. The ground was strangely unstable, occasionally giving way beneath his feet, plunging him into ankle-deep mud. He was beginning to understand the source of that ominous Deathworld label. After what felt like hours, The tangled growth finally relented, revealing a clearing. But the sight that greeted him made him question his reality. A human settlement, not primitive, but a sprawling complex of towering structures made from materials he couldn't identify, glistening oddly in the pounding rain. These humans weren't huddling in fear under nature's onslaught. They seemed blissfully unaware. Small figures in bright waterproof coverings moved about their strange tasks with an efficiency that belied the chaotic conditions. He observed them from the shadows, feeling a strange sense of disorientation. Shouldn't they be shivering? Dying? Where were the signs of panic, of a population waging a constant struggle against a hostile environment? It made no sense. Driven more by shock than any sense of strategy, Jack stumbled out of the undergrowth and into the open. Immediately, heads turned. The small figures, clad in those peculiar waterproof suits, paused their activities and stared. Not with fear, but a mixture of curiosity and, dare he say it, amusement. One of the figures separated itself from the rest and approached, movement smooth and unhindered by the downpour. As the figure drew closer, Jax realized this human was far larger and more muscular than he had anticipated. But the size wasn't intimidating. There was an odd grace in the stride, a subtle, practiced ease in the way the human navigated the mud and driving rain. Up close, the human's face was visible behind a transparent shield. It was a young face, weathered by unknown elements, yet with the same unfazed determination in its eyes. Then the human did the unthinkable. It smiled. Bit of a downpour, wouldn't you say? The voice carried clearly despite the storm, a resonant baritone tinged with amusement, and an accent Jax struggled to identify. Jax blinked, his carefully practiced Zarian diplomacy momentarily malfunctioning. Yes, he finally managed to stammer, mind still wrestling with the absurdity of the encounter. First-time visitor, I presume. You didn't check the weather report. Another wide smile, a disarming display of white teeth in a sun-darkened face. There seems to have been a miscalculation. He was aware of how ridiculous he sounded, a Zarian scout at a loss for words in front of a being that should be trembling with fear. The human merely laughed, a hearty sound that seemed entirely at odds with their dire surroundings. Miscalculation is a polite way of putting it, I suppose. Welcome to Earth. He extended a hand. Name's Tom. Jax hesitated. Physical contact protocols with unclassified species were complex and fraught with potential diplomatic hazards. And yet there was something fundamentally disarming about this human, this Tom. Against his better judgment, he accepted the outstretched hand, his scaly Zarian grip meeting warm, calloused flesh. Jax, he introduced himself in return. He felt a flicker of pride when no recoil of surprise or disgust followed the touch, just a firm, confident squeeze. Well, Jax, welcome to our lovely little Deathworld. Tom gestured at the thriving settlement, bustling with unfazed activity. Can I offer you shelter from the storm? I'm sure you have questions. Jax felt a surge of confusion and a pang of something akin to embarrassment. Had he truly been so blinded by prejudice? That would be appreciated, he admitted, trying to regain his composure. Tom led him towards one of the impressive structures, guiding him easily through the maze of mud and puddles. As they walked, Jax noted the intricate pathways, raised wooden platforms, and elaborate drainage systems integrated seamlessly into the settlement's design. It appeared less like a desperate fight for survival, and more like a dance where humans led, and the elements begrudgingly followed. The structure's interior was a revelation, dry, spacious, filled with glowing lights and unknown technology. Jax felt utterly out of place and startlingly primitive amidst the gleaming surfaces and unfamiliar interfaces. Yet no one seemed the least bit alarmed by his presence. In fact, several humans even nodded in acknowledgement as they passed. This way, Tom gestured towards a doorway. Let's get you out of those wet clothes. No sense catching a death of cold on your first day on a death world, right? Tom led him into a small, functional room that seemed to be some sort of personal quarters. With a few deft motions, Tom stripped off his own waterproof outer layer, revealing a well-toned physique clad in a simple, form-fitting suit. It was then Jax noticed the subtle augmentations, a gleaming band around Tom's wrist, thin wires disappearing beneath the fabric at his temples. "Go on, get those wet things off," Tom encouraged, sensing Jax's hesitation. "We've got a spare envirosuit that should fit you with some adjustments. Don't want our guest going hypothermic." Despite the gentle encouragement, Jax felt his Zarian scales flush a deep blue in embarrassment. The humans treated their hostile world as a minor inconvenience, while he, the seasoned scout, was shivering beneath layers of advanced protective gear. His preconceptions crumbled with each passing moment. He carefully shed the soaked envirosuit, accepting the clean, dry replacement Tom handed him. It hummed with a comforting warmth as it adjusted automatically to his form. Feeling slightly less vulnerable, Jax dared to ask the burning question. "How?" He gestured out towards the window where the rain continued unabated. "How is this possible? How do you survive, let alone thrive, in this madness?" Tom let out a low chuckle. "Ah, the million-credit question. Well, Jax, the answer's not so simple. See, Earth, she's not all sunshine and rainbows. She's got a temper, that's for sure. But we humans, we're a stubborn lot. Instead of hiding, we learned to adapt. We built shelters, tools, invented things, figured out ways to turn her challenges into something useful. For every harsh storm," Tom continued, his eyes twinkling with an intensity that unsettled Jax, "we learned to harvest the water and harness the energy. When the earth shook and the volcanoes roared, we studied the patterns, predicted them, built structures that could bend, not break. And when the creatures were bigger, faster, stronger," he paused, a flicker of something ancient in his eyes, "well, we got smarter." Jax found himself leaning closer, transfixed. This human didn't speak with fear or resignation, but with an odd combination of reverence and defiance. He had the bearing of a warrior recounting victories over a formidable foe. "We watch the world, Jax, learn its rhythms, its dangers, its secrets. And instead of just fighting it, we use what it gives us, turn the poison into medicine, the predator into—" Tom hesitated, searching for the right word, then shrugged, "into a challenge, a test. That, my friend," he gestured grandly around the room, "is the human way. We don't just survive. We turn struggle into opportunity." His smile was wide now, disarming and full of pride. "Earth, it makes us stronger." Jax felt a strange sensation, a mix of admiration, envy, and a nagging sense of inadequacy. The Zarians, with their focus on safety and caution, had they missed something essential? Was there a hidden strength in facing adversity head-on, in daring to dance with the storm instead of cowering from it? "You seem proud," Jax finally commented, an edge of disbelief in his voice, "of this harshness." Tom's face softened, more than proud, grateful. "It forced us to be better, smarter, stronger, not just as individuals, but together." He paused, as if considering his words. "The way I see it, Jax, Earth's not trying to kill us. She's trying to teach us." The words echoed in Jax's mind, unsettling the foundations of his carefully ordered Zarian worldview. Could it be that the very obstacles they spent centuries avoiding and mitigating were the key to true resilience? 1,000 questions bubbled to the surface. He wanted to know everything: the history of this world, the tools they used, the knowledge they'd amassed in their struggle against the elements. More importantly, he wanted to see it firsthand, to experience the chaotic energy of this death world. "Can you show me?" Jax asked hesitantly, almost afraid to voice the request. Tom's smile returned, wider than ever. "Thought you'd never ask," he said, a touch of mischief in his voice. "Now, the real tour of Earth begins." Tom led Jax out of the settlement and into the heart of the storm. This time, Jax didn't seek shelter or cower from the onslaught. With Tom as an unexpectedly capable guide, he ventured into the vibrant chaos. They traversed networks of raised platforms winding through dense jungles. Jax marveled at the intricate system of ropes and pulleys that allowed humans to move swiftly above the treacherous, muddy ground. Tom demonstrated how to use the vines for quick travel, swinging effortlessly between platforms. Jax's first attempt ended with him dangling upside down, his tail wrapped around the vine for dear life. Not bad for a first try. Tom laughed, helping Jax right himself. You'll get the hang of it. Just remember, the jungle's alive. Work with it, not against it. As if to prove Tom's point, a massive flower suddenly bloomed beside them, its petals unfurling with surprising speed. Jax recoiled, expecting danger, but Tom grinned. "Watch this," he said, reaching out to touch the flower's center. The petals closed around his hand, and when they opened again, Tom was holding a small vial of shimmering liquid. "Natural rain collector," he explained. "Also makes a mean painkiller when processed right." Their journey continued to a vast desert. The sudden shift from humid jungle to scorching sands left Jax disoriented. He watched in awe as Tom's envirosuit seamlessly adjusted, transforming into a lightweight, reflective garment. "Lesson 1 of desert survival," Tom said, handing Jax a strange, spiny fruit. "Water's everywhere if you know where to look." Jax skeptically eyed the fruit, then gasped as Tom deftly sliced it open, revealing a core of cool, refreshing liquid. "But be careful," Tom warned, pointing to an identical-looking plant nearby. "That one's cousin will give you hallucinations for a week. Nasty stuff, unless you're into that sort of thing." They trekked across dunes, Tom teaching Jax how to read the wind patterns in the sand, predicting incoming sandstorms. They took shelter in a hidden oasis, where Jax learned the art of solar distillation, turning brackish water into something drinkable. As night fell, the temperature plummeted. Jax shivered, his Zarian physiology ill-equipped for such extremes. Tom showed him how to build a fire using strange crystals found in the sand. "Desert nights are cold, but they're also beautiful," Tom said, pointing upwards. Jax gazed at the star-filled sky, clearer than he'd ever seen from space. Perfect for navigation, if you know how to read them. Their next stop was a mountain range that seemed to pierce the clouds. Jax struggled with the thin air, while Tom moved with practiced ease. They scaled cliffs using equipment that seemed primitive to Jax's eyes, but proved remarkably effective. "The trick," Tom panted as they rested on a narrow ledge, "is to respect the mountain. It's not just a big rock. It's alive, always changing." As if on cue, a low rumble echoed through the air. Jax froze, but Tom's eyes lit up with excitement. "Avalanche," he shouted, grabbing Jax's arm. "Time for a quick lesson in extreme skiing." Before Jax could protest, Tom had strapped strange boards to their feet and pushed them off the ledge. They plummeted downward, the roar of the avalanche close behind. Jax's heart pounded as Tom guided them through a series of turns, using the very force that threatened to bury them as a means of escape. When they finally skidded to a stop at the mountain's base, Jax couldn't decide if he wanted to laugh, cry, or vomit. Tom just grinned, slapping him on the back. "Nothing like a little adrenaline rush to make you feel alive." Their final destination was a coastline battered by massive waves. Jax watched in disbelief as humans rode the towering swells on tiny boards, performing impossible acrobatics. "Ocean's the greatest teacher of all," Tom said, wading into the surf. "Always changing, never predictable. You've got to learn to read its moods, feel its rhythms." He handed Jax a wetsuit and a board, ready to catch some waves. Jax's first attempts were disastrous. He swallowed more seawater than he thought possible and was tossed about like a rag doll. But with Tom's patient guidance, he began to sense the patterns in the chaos. By sunset, he managed to stand up on the board for a few glorious seconds, riding the energy of the ocean itself. As they sat on the beach, watching the sun dip below the horizon, Jax felt a profound shift in his perspective. In just one day, he'd experienced more raw, visceral living than in his entire Zarian existence. "I think I'm beginning to understand," Jax said quietly. "Your world, it's not trying to kill you. It's challenging us," Tom finished, "pushing us to be better, stronger, smarter. Every day is a test, Jax, but it's also an opportunity." Jax nodded, a new respect gleaming in his eyes. "You humans, you're not just surviving here. You're thriving because of the challenges, not in spite of them." Tom smiled, a hint of pride in his expression. "Now you're getting it. Earth's not a death world, Jax. It's the greatest training ground in the galaxy." As the stars began to twinkle above, Jax realized his report back to the Zarian bureaucracy would be very different from what he'd initially expected. Earth wasn't a paradise, but it was far from a simple death world. It was a crucible, forging a species unlike any he'd encountered before. And deep down, a part of him wondered if he too could learn to dance with the chaos, to find strength in the struggle. The adventure, it seemed, was just beginning. Jax's time on Earth flew by in a whirlwind of new experiences. Each day brought fresh challenges and revelations about the planet's complex ecosystem and the humans' remarkable adaptability. He found himself reluctantly impressed, his initial skepticism giving way to genuine admiration. One evening, as Jax and Tom sat by a crackling fire, discussing the finer points of predicting volcanic eruptions, an urgent message crackled through Tom's communication device. Tom's face grew serious as he listened, his usual easygoing demeanor replaced by a look of grim determination. "What is it?" Jax asked, sensing the shift in mood. Tom's eyes met his, filled with a mixture of concern. And was that excitement? "Bad news from the stars, my friend. Seems we've got some unfriendly visitors heading our way." Jax felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cool night air. "Visitors? You mean hostile aliens?" Tom nodded. "A race called the Vrox. Nasty bunch, from what we've heard. They've been conquering planets across the galaxy, strip mining resources, and enslaving populations." Jax's heart sank. He'd heard whispers of the Vrox, a warlike species known for their brutal efficiency. But Earth is so far from the galactic core. Why come here? Tom's grin was unexpected and slightly unnerving. "Seems our little death world reputation has caught their attention. They think we'll be easy pickings." Jax blinked in confusion. "You're happy about this?" Tom laughed, a sound that seemed out of place given the dire news. "Happy? Nah. But excited. You bet. This is the ultimate test, Jax. Everything Earth has taught us, everything we've become, it's all been leading to this moment." Over the next few days, Jax watched in amazement as the humans mobilized. There was no panic, no frantic scrambling. Instead, a focused energy swept through the population. Scientists huddled over strange devices, engineers retrofitted everyday tools into potential weapons, and even children eagerly participated in drills and preparations. Tom took Jax to a hidden facility deep within a mountain. Inside, humans worked alongside representatives from other alien species, refugees who had followed Vrock's conquest and found sanctuary on Earth. "We've been preparing for something like this for generations," Tom explained as they walked through bustling corridors. "Earth isn't just our home. It's our teacher, our weapon, and our shield." Jax saw how the humans had adapted their technology to work in harmony with Earth's volatile nature. Volcanic vents powered massive energy shields. Earthquakes could be triggered on command to swallow enemy forces. Even the planet's magnetic field had been harnessed as a defense against orbital bombardment. "But how can you hope to stand against a technologically superior force?" Jax asked, still skeptical despite everything he'd seen. Tom's eyes twinkled with that now familiar mix of mischief and determination. "Superior tech? Maybe. But they've never faced anything like Earth before. And more importantly, they've never faced humans who've been shaped by this world. As the days passed, news arrived of the Vrock's fleet entering the solar system. Jax expected fear to grip the population. Instead, he sensed an almost predatory anticipation. "You have to understand, Jax," Tom said as they watched a group of children gleefully preparing camouflaged pit traps. "Earth has been trying to kill us since day one. We've spent our entire history outsmarting a planet that throws everything it's got at us. The Vrocks. They're just the next challenge." The first Vrock ships appeared in the sky, their sleek forms a stark contrast to the wild beauty of Earth. They launched probes, no doubt expecting to find a primitive civilization cowering in fear. What they found instead was a world that fought back. Jax watched in awe as the jungle itself seemed to come alive, vines ensnaring Vrock's landing craft and dragging them into quicksand bogs. In the deserts, sandstorms materialized out of nowhere, their winds laced with microscopic, metal-eating bacteria that chewed through Vrock's armor. The oceans churned with artificially triggered tsunamis, capsizing Vrock ships, foolish enough to venture too close to shore. And in the mountains, avalanches and rock slides buried entire squadrons of invaders. But it wasn't just Earth itself that fought. Humans emerged from hidden bunkers and secret bases, wielding weapons that seemed to defy logic. They rode genetically engineered creatures that put the fiercest Vrock's war beasts to shame. Their battle cries echoed with the same wild energy Jax had come to associate with Earth itself. Tom led a daring raid on a Vrock's command ship, using a combination of Earth-born stealth techniques and technology that seamlessly merged with the planet's natural defenses. Jax found himself caught up in the excitement, his Zarian caution overwhelmed by the humans' infectious courage. As the battle raged on, Jax realized something profound. The Vrocks, for all their advanced technology and conquering experience, were fighting a losing battle. They were up against not just a species, but an entire world that had turned hostility into an art form. Earth wasn't just defending itself. It was teaching the galaxy a lesson about the true nature of strength and adaptability. In the command center, surrounded by screens showing the Vrock's fleet in disarray, Tom turned to Jax with a wide grin. "Still think we're living on a death world, my friend?" Jax shook his head, a newfound respect evident in his eyes. "No," he admitted. "I think I finally understand. Earth isn't a death world at all. It's the most alive place I've ever seen." As reports of Vrock's retreats flooded in, Jax couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. He had come to study a supposed death world. Instead, he had witnessed the birth of a galactic power, forged in the crucible of Earth's unforgiving embrace. The Vrocks had come expecting an easy conquest. They were leaving with a lesson about the true meaning of survival and the unbreakable spirit of a species that called the universe's greatest teacher home. The Vrock's retreat was not the end of the conflict, but rather the beginning of a new phase. Earth, once considered a backwater planet, had suddenly become the focal point of galactic attention. The news of a death world, successfully repelling the dreaded Vrocks, spread like wildfire across the stars. Jax found himself in an unexpected role as Earth's ambassador to the Zarian High Council. He stood before his peers, many of whom regarded him with a mixture of disbelief and curiosity. "Esteemed Council," Jax began, his voice steady despite his nervousness, "I come to you not just as a scout, but as a witness to something extraordinary. Earth is not the death world we believed it to be. It is a crucible of life, a forge that has created a species unlike any we've encountered." He recounted his experiences, from the terrifying storms to the ingenious adaptations of the humans. The council listened, their skepticism slowly giving way to wonder. But surely, one elder Zarian interrupted, this victory against the Vrocks was mere chance. A fluke. Jax shook his head emphatically. "No, respected elder. It was the culmination of millennia of evolution, of humans learning to not just survive, but thrive in conditions we consider impossible. And now they stand ready to share that knowledge with the galaxy." Back on Earth, Tom and his fellow humans were busy. The Vrok's defeat had opened up new possibilities, and Earth was determined to seize the moment. "We've got to strike while the iron's hot," Tom explained to Jax upon his return. "The Vroks are licking their wounds, but they'll be back. And they won't be alone." Earth's preparations took on a new dimension. No longer content to simply defend their world, the humans began to look outward. They started adapting their Earth-born technologies for space travel, creating ships that could withstand the harshest conditions the cosmos could throw at them. Jax watched in amazement as humans terraformed a nearby moon, turning it into a training ground for other species to learn Earth survival techniques. Delegations from across the galaxy arrived, eager to unlock the secrets of Earth's resilience. The Vroks, true to Tom's prediction, did return. But this time, they faced not just Earth, but a coalition of planets inspired by Earth's example. The battle was fierce, stretching across multiple star systems. Jax found himself in the thick of the action, commanding a ship crewed by a mix of humans and aliens. They faced a Vrok's battlecruiser, its weapons capable of cracking planets. Evasive maneuvers, Jax shouted as energy beams lanced past their hull. Tom at the helm grinned wildly. "Evasive? Nah, we're going in close." Before Jax could protest, their ship dove towards the massive Vrok's vessel. They skimmed along its surface, so close Jax could see the shock on the Vrok's gunners' faces through the viewports. "Now," Tom yelled. Their ship released a cloud of what looked like pollen. The tiny particles swarmed over the Vrok's ship, finding every crack and crevice. "What did we just do?" Jax asked, bewildered. Tom's smile was triumphant. "Remember those metal-eating bacteria from the desert? We've given them an appetite for Vrok's alloys." Within minutes, the mighty Vrok ship began to crumble, its hull eaten away from the inside out. Similar scenes played out across the battlefield. Earth-inspired tactics confounded the Vroks at every turn. Ships that seemed to phase through solid matter, weapons that harnessed the power of solar flares, and communication systems that used quantum entanglement to coordinate attacks faster than light itself. The tide of the war turned decisively. The Vroks, once the terror of the galaxy, found themselves outmatched not by superior firepower, but by the sheer unpredictability and adaptability of their opponents. In the aftermath of the final battle, as the remnants of the Vrok's fleet fled into the unknown reaches of space, Jax stood on the bridge of the flagship, looking out at the star-filled expanse. Tom joined him, his face weary but satisfied. "Quite a view, isn't it?" Jax nodded, still processing everything that had happened. "I came to Earth expecting to file a simple report. Instead, I found myself part of a galactic revolution." Tom chuckled. "That's Earth for you, always keeping you on your toes." As they watched, ships from dozens of alien races moved into formation around them. Each had been touched by Earth's influence, learning to harness the chaotic energy that humans had mastered over millennia. "What happens now?" Jax asked. Tom's eyes gleamed with the familiar spark of adventure. Now we explore. There's a whole universe out there, full of new challenges, new death worlds to tame. And this time, we go together." Jax felt a thrill of excitement. The galaxy was entering a new age, one shaped by the resilience and adaptability born on a little blue planet once mistakenly labeled as deadly. As the fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, Jax reflected on his journey. He had come to study a death world, and instead discovered the key to life itself. The strength to face adversity, the wisdom to learn from it, and the courage to thrive in the face of impossible odds. Earth, the supposed death world, had become the cradle of a new galactic civilization, and Jax, once a simple Zarian scout, now stood at the forefront of the greatest adventure in cosmic history. The stars beckoned, full of unknown challenges and untold wonders, and thanks to the lessons of Earth, they were ready to face whatever the universe had in store.